All right. Hello and good evening and welcome everyone, and also for you who are joining us live. So this will be our last meetup with DevOps Kona before summer, and we're very excited today also to have one of our members that having a talk today about navigating the complexities of DevSecOps. That will be very interesting. And I'm just going to say a few words about our DevOps Gone group. Let's see if it, good. Yeah, we have the agenda here today. We've had a meet and greet, and we will soon have the actual presentation. Yes, so this is us, the three of us that are hosting this group. We have, since as we heard here before, since 2018, we have about 45 meetups. And we are very soon up to these 1,200 members on meetup.com, which is sort of our main site for now, at least. We're looking into some other alternatives as well. So yeah, that is one place to get in touch with us. We also have a group in LinkedIn that you can search for and get invites to. We use GitHub for publishing the meetups and the topics and everything there, so there's also some information. And what I also wanted to mention here was that we used to have a Slack as well, but we found, well, it wasn't really working as we wanted to. So we switched over to Discord, and one of the things that we have been talking about with this group is that the vision is for us to we want to be able to have a space for inspiration and sharing knowledges between people who has sort of living on the edges, as you might say, that are open to change and want to, or may also want to create some change in the workplace that they do. And some might work with some legacy tooling, and some may work with the latest, coolest stuff, and to have this space for inspiration and sharing this knowledge. So. We're hoping that Discord could probably be one of these spots. So we actually have an invite here that you can just scan if you are interested, or we will also send this out later on. But that will at least, it's an invite link, or is it? This is a security session presentation today, so yeah, it was a check. No, it is the invites to our Discord. So yeah. Feel free to join either now or after. We will send it out as well. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. And yeah, so without further ado, a big hand for Samuel that's going to present you today.
Thank you. Oh, sorry about that. I had no idea that it was, I locked you out. Or not. Just give me There you go. Hi. Can you see me properly? Everything okay? Yeah, my name is Samuel. Originally from Nigeria. Been living in, but I love the industry. I love the computers since I was young. I hated coding. And I was not good at it when I eventually started coding. But I was good at something, curious, asking questions. Why? When? Why did you do that? Why did you configure it this way and not that way? Could we do it differently? If we do it this way, what happened? And if you say a tool should be used for this, why? Can I do it differently? So I was that guy that, I don't break systems, but at least I try to use it for purposes, you could say, that was not designed to use it for. So a couple of years later, I found out that they call those type of people hackers. And so I was just that guy that kind of thinking around systems. So when I got my first IT job, it was within the networking industry. And afterwards, I moved to Sweden. Then I got my first techie job as a DevOps engineer. And I was asking all these questions where I see some of my colleagues, they will bypass the GitHub put your code each time. You just press space bar, and it enters, and all these things. I was like, wow, why do those things work? Anyways, which led me to the rabbit hole of pursuing my second master's degree, then my third one, which is now in information security. So, in my research, I was looking at, oh, you need the page, which is, give me a second. Thank you. And I need my page as well. Oh, good. All right. So in today's talk, I'll go through these points briefly and to discuss the complexities of DevSecOps adoption within organization. But before I start with this, what is the tipping point? I have a couple of questions. Just think about them. If you have the answer, please feel free to say it. What was the tipping point or driving force that made your organization realize the necessity for integrating security practices within your development lifecycle? Does anybody know? Within your organization, when did you adopt security? When was the first time you asked security question, or when was it introduced to you? What were the most significant cultural organizational barriers you faced when you were being introduced to security? And how did you navigate these challenges? These are some of the questions I'll be dealing with throughout this talk today, and just bear those questions at the back of your mind. So back in 2017, there was a huge personal data breach that occurred in Equifax in the US, where 147 million people's personal data was exposed due to security vulnerabilities within the environment. At the same time, fast forward to, it was a wake-up call, at least within the US community. In 2018, the British Airways also faced about 500,000 personal details of their customers who were also exposed, of which 250,000 members of those customers, their names, their addresses, their credit card information, and CVV was stolen. And at this juncture, I mean, there's been a lot of hackings going on, but some of them are not directly related to within development or production environments. So this was a wake-up call. And when Gartner published, in a leading research advisory firm, published in 2022 that DevSecOps adoption in Europe, the report highlighted the challenges faced by European organizations, including cultural resistance, lack of skilled personnel, and difficulties in integrating security into existing development processes. This example from a European regulatory highlights the increasing focus practices as means to ensure compliance with data protection regulations such as GDPR. And these were the things that sort of motivated me in going into this direction. And interestingly, the literature, the business world has been pushing DevSecOps, and you could almost think it's another gimmick to sort of sell more tools, which they do, but there's also lack of proper literature within the academia where you look at what are the data showing. And these were the things I set out to sort of look into. And in this research, I did not look into tools because I bet most of you know much better tools than I do because I've not done that for a long time. But I was looking at what are the things that we as researchers or developers, how do we think about security? So my primary objective is to look at investigate the complex interplay of factors that influence the successful adaptation or adoption of DevSecOps practices across organizations. And some of the key takeaways will be the practical recommendations and strategies for overcoming the cultural barriers, aligning security with rapid development processes, and fostering a culture of security awareness within teams. And in my research, one of the you could say the critical, my contribution would be the critical gap by providing empirical insights into the enablers and barriers organizations face in integrating security practices within their development workflows. So as previously mentioned, DevSecOps is an evolving digital landscape, and cybersecurity threats are increasing exponentially. And the consequence of security breaches can be catastrophic, ranging from financial losses and reputational damage to legal penalties and business disruptions. And the core DevSecOps principles will be shift-left security, continuous security monitoring and testing, automation and collaboration, security as code. Now, I don't know. Oh, awesome. This was interesting due to the literature I read. I read over 80, between 80 and 100 papers in the course of this research. And what I could sort of decode out of all of them were this sort of systems, which we could call ecosystem was the first. Well, actually, this one and this one were the first two that I realized, which you call push factors, institutional pressures. You could say GDPR. It could be, now we have the NIS2 directive. We have the CRA, the CRE, you have DORA. If you don't know all these things, they are just basically EU acts and directive coming to all European countries. And in the course of this, these two sort of stood out, and I kept sort of munching on those ideas for a very long time. And it was during one of my talk, the DevOps talk here, that I spoke with another person, and this came up, the organizational priorities in my discussion with this person. So thanks to DevOps Corner. And you know, it's sort of highlighted where you have to constantly find balance, because security is not visible within an organization. You develop a product, you can show that product, what it does, how fast, how much time you saved, but you don't discuss security as such. Especially, I don't know whether product owners discuss it or the Scrum Masters discuss this type of things. So then I found out within the literature as well that these are some of the factors that's influencing the adoption of DevSecOps. Then I also discover the norms and attitude that sort of ties down all these factors that are in this diagram. And basically, at the top of everything, this was discovered towards the end of my research, that I still felt like there was still something missing. And what are those things affecting the environment? We've seen the pull factors, which is organizational dynamics and all this, you know, cross-functional collaboration, communication channels, organizational culture. You have the industry standards and customer demands. But you also have AI, industry trends, your market that are pushing, constantly pushing for organizations to do something or to produce something new, produce a new product, a new feature that can do X, but often neglecting the security implications of some of these tools and some of these solutions that have been pushed out there. So, as previously discussed, push factors represent institutional pressures that drive organizations to adopt DevSecOps practices. Pull factors represent the factors include leadership support, and as we can see, strong leadership support, open communication, and a culture of collaboration can facilitate successful integration of security practices, while cultural barriers such as resistance to change and siloed teams can hinder DevSecOps adoption. As previously discussed, organizational priorities, it encompasses the balancing of speed and security, resource allocation, and risk management practices in fostering a culture that supports the effective implementation of DevSecOps. And overall, norms and attitude, they play a crucial role in the long-term viability and effectiveness of security practices within an organization. This was my research question in going into the, now, we all know in research, the question changes all the time. But my research question was, how does this interplay between push factors, pull factors, and organizational priorities influence the success of DevSecOps adaptation, particularly within the norms, the context of norms and attitudes of the organization? Why was this question so critical and important? It doesn't matter what the leadership of the organization say. At the end of the day, what you want is for individual member of a team to start thinking and have the attitude to adopt security within their everyday work. It starts from having basic cyber hygiene from home, which you take to your work. I mean, how many of us, I don't know whether you've experienced it before, you leave your computer, you quickly go to the toilet. You don't even close it because, yes, we trust everyone, it's fine, but we often do this naturally because we don't have that mindset of, let me consider the security implication of what I'm doing. So what did I find out? So, well, I've summarized the finding earlier on, but so one of those key factors you could say in the theme of the literature that I reviewed were, and the theoretical approach that I use to find this is I combined two theoretical approaches, which has not been done in the industry, these are the key factors that sort of showed up, which is one addresses the DevSecOps concept and principles. The other one is role of organizational culture, socio-technical systems, which emphasizes the interplay between technical tools, processes, and social factors like skills, collaboration, and organizational dynamics within development environments. Institutional pressure is also a key factor, and we can see that the EU is having almost 6, and we're not talking about the electronic act that is also in place, the medical one in place. So we have more than at least between 8 and 10 different regulations for that is focusing on cybersecurity over the next several years, at least the next 10 years, I would say. Most of them will come into effect by next year. Some are already in effect, starting from October this year. And we now have standards, the well-known one, GDPR within the EU. We also have standards like, GDPR is not a standard, but you understand what I mean. Standard like ISO 27001 is a standard. We also have NIS2. We have even the Department of Defense within the US. They're all recommending how you should implement DevSecOps. Even the White House also released documents stating how this thing should be implemented. And they're saying our code bases are vulnerable, and they're promoting all the tools and languages and how to think about this type of thing. The reason being that this is perhaps one of the most critical problems that we are having as developers or within development or product development environments. So as previously mentioned, these are the factors influencing security, software security culture, leadership support, cross-functional collaboration and communication, security, organizational influence, and organizational culture. Now, so basically I interviewed about nine both managers, CEOs, and developers in order to sort of have a semi-structured interview and quality data approach that I used. But I'm not going to go into the details of that methodology because of the finding, because of time. We've discussed this. So as part of, I can give you an example of some of the quotations, run through those examples real quick. One of the interviews that I did said compliance was seen as an existential necessity for their business because they're handling financial services. And an organization like that, once you have a financial license, you're expected to comply with PCI DSS, which is payment card industry security standards. You're expected to comply with this, otherwise they will pull your license. Another one says the EU GDPR and stringent medical device regulation influenced their operation and security approach. So from what you can see here, these are people providing critical services within the industry. Therefore, they are bound, so quote unquote, to be secured. Another participant said the legal compliance and protecting our data, customer data, were primary reasons for adopting DevSecOps principles and practices within the organization. And often the case in the financial sector that this person worked, is that the developers initially pushed against the whole idea of security because it slows them down as they had to transfer certain things to the security team in order for them to do their work. And they didn't like that. But when it started tying down to the viability of the organization, they changed their mind. And also, as previously said, it says leadership. Our organizational robust leadership support enhances our ability to integrate security practices within the organizations. The one that said tight deadlines and priorities sometimes inhibit collaboration between teams, hindering our DevSecOps efforts. And another participant said, without a that it was some of the developers who are sort of aware of security mindset within the organization that would do certain things to implement security. Even the InfoSec department that is supposed to keep the controls in place were not really doing anything. They were sort of, yeah, did you do X, Y, Z? I said, yeah, no checking of this background. So in a situation like that, we will not keep our products and our environment secure. So as previously said, the roles of organizational priorities is like walking a tightrope. High severity issues take precedence, even if it means delivery delays within this organization. And it says, another participant said, we prioritize investing in security over cost-cutting measures, recognizing its importance. It said, we're implementing the threat modeling and a secure development lifecycle to proactively identify and mitigate risk. If you remember a few months ago, there was this something Z, thank you, XZ that was discovered. I asked one of the participants, did that affect you? And he said, no, because it would not dare to affect us given that we have layered in-depth security that nothing comes in, nothing goes out. We define where everything goes. And how often, or how many, I mean, think about this. How many of your teams think about this type of things? That what you're allowing to your organization or within your product or within your environment? How many of you have made the mistake of forgetting credentials on your environment? I mean, it's an honest mistake. It's not intentional. Sometimes it is, but it's not intentional. But you know, if you don't have things in place that tells you even before you push, you will not be able to pick those things. So, which brings me down to, if there's anything that you can take out of this place today, is this idea that security awareness is very important. Having, you know, the play with words when they say secure by design or privacy by design. I'm saying secured by mindset, because you cannot get to the privacy by design or secure by design without having the mindset to actually want to be secured in the first place. So emphasize, one of the participants said we must invest in the right awareness training. And it's not just because within companies, I remember in some of the companies I worked where you have to go through this security training, but not during your work hours. You have to do it on yourself. And now becomes, let me just go through this thing, click, click, click. I've done it before, but I don't know about you, but it's just about let's click through this stuff without truly understanding the implication of what we're clicking through. And if organizations create the incentives to say, this is very important to us, this is very important for you as well within the organization to have a proper training. At the same time, continuous learning fosters resilience. Within the organization, one of the people I spoke to said, irrespective of what the problem is, of course there are negligent situations whereby it needs to be corrected, but oftentimes we can learn from every situation. It says, not all teams have adopted our practices yet. Overcoming that cultural inertia is an ongoing effort. There are organizations that pushes away from this, that I've always done things this way, I'd rather do it that way. And this can promote insecurity within the organization. I guess, okay, this is very important. So of the 9 people I interviewed, 7 of them explicitly explicitly mention regulatory compliance, industry standards, and customer demand as key institutional pressures driving their DevSecOps adoption. Internal organization, the pull factors the pull factor sector, it said the importance of leadership support, cross-functional collaboration, communication channels, and organizational culture was consistently highlighted by 6 out of 9 participants that I interviewed. Also, the organizational priorities section, balancing priorities like speed, security, resource allocation, and risk management emerged as factors across 7 out of the 9 participants. While not all participants explicitly discussed ecosystem factors, 5 out of 9 highlighted the impact of industry strengths, technology, and market forces. And 6 out of 9 participants showed that the significance of security awareness, continuous learning, and overcoming resistance was echoed in their responses. Now, what is significant about this is that both, if you see the push factors and the organizational priorities, there are 7. So someone asked me a question yesterday while I presented this in my defense. They asked me a question that, were they the same people that responded? It was a curious question. I'm yet to find out, but I bet it's likely the answer that it is the same people that regulatory institutional pressures, regulation is the same, they have to prioritize within the organization. We'll not go through this. Now, the basic limitation you could say of my research was that it was done within a smaller participants, but you could generalize this across different organizations. When I started out, I was looking at SMEs, that how could my research help SMEs because of lack of resources within the SME environment. But I quickly realized that within larger organizations, at least one of the problems of one of the people I spoke to, he said, the developer experience is not the best at the moment because larger organizations buy tools to make up for lack of security, and which makes the life of developers really screwed up, basically. You can't do anything, you can't move a leg without being stopped by a tool, alert or something like that. So I realized that it cuts across different organizations, not just SMEs, also large organizations can benefit from my research. So basically, future research could potentially look at the impact of specific ecosystem factors like cloud computing adoption or open source software proliferation, like supply chain attacks that has been happening as well. There are plenty of them. And of course, at the end of the day, I'm working on an article right now that sort of looks into all these various regulations that you have to do X and Y and comply with this and that. That what is it one thing that ties everything together? That if you implement this 20% of thing, will it cover 80% of my compliance obligations? And it's risk management that ties everything together. It's this thinking of, is this the right way to do this? Why should I do this? What sort of control should we put in place? When I make this decision, what are the trade-offs that I'm negotiating here? So risk management is very important. I didn't cover that details in my research, but I wrote about it briefly, but it's something that it could sort of carry on, that even the developers can be trained in risk management, in understanding the DevSecOps adaptation approaches. Now, I have this inclination that an average US company is paranoid because most of them supply their products or services to the federal government, and they put a lot of stringent controls on what they have to fulfill. Whereas maybe in Scandinavia, it's less laissez-faire. Last year, I had a professor or an external lecturer who said, I asked the question that why is it not extremely enforced in Scandinavia? He said, because we have a trust culture, trust-based culture, and therefore we don't really enforce this type of things as such. She's not advocating that. And I thought to myself, that was very naive because Sweden or Denmark or 50 years ago is not what we have today. And the sort of the threats has increased. And we have to start thinking. Obviously, you can see the push factors, the regulations being put in place as one of those things that is increasing, not for us not to be naive anymore. So before I finish, I found this beautiful quote when I was making this slide. It says, "Science and technology revolutionize our lives, but memory, tradition, and myth." Because tools, science, AI, all these things, they will change, they have changed, they will continue to change. But what remains is the memories that we build, is the stories that we tell each other, is the tradition that we create, is the myth around that sustains a long-term viability of any business, any organization, or any product. Do you have any questions?
I'm not a developer,
Okay.
but I want to know, maybe you don't know the answer, but maybe someone here knows. It's like in real life, what are the real possibilities that while you are developing, you can do a risk assessment, this decision that I'm taking not to do something is good or not, or register it, or have the possibility to have this decision on you, because part of the DevOps concept is like you need to do the things fast, agile, and actually fulfill not only security requirements, tons of other requirements, but how you can manage to do that and do a risk assessment and say, ooh, maybe it's good to do this or not in real life.
Okay, I can answer, and if other people can contribute as well. I know that within AI tool to develop it, so, and it's suggested a library to me. And as a secure nerd as I am, I went to investigate that library, that what is this thing that this thing is suggesting I use. It has been, it's no longer in use. And I was like, but this is no longer in use. Why did you recommend? Oh, it says, I'm sorry. So I dug deeper, went on Slack, and other people now recommended another one that is better and stuff. So as a developer, you want to think from that perspective of like, what this library, is it safe? Who made the library? Because the XZ stuff was someone who has contributed to the library who embedded the code inside. So we have to constantly think, this tool that I'm using, this new shiny tool that helps me solve my problem so fast, what are the security implication of that? So I don't know if anybody has a better answer to that.
And then you are talking about this S1.
Yes, exactly. But how many developers know about SBOM? How many? Excellent. I'm so glad to hear that, because a lot of, you could say, and the first question I asked before is that when did you start thinking about security within your organization? Is it 5 years into the industry you start thinking about it? Then we run a lot of risk before then.
I think the security.
Yes. Yeah. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
The battery is low or something. So what I wanted to say is that I am a developer, and it's just like way too many tools. That's what I'm doing. Luckily, I care about security as much as I can, but the setup in my company takes care of most of it. So with AI, with automation, you can take a risk and push your changes, and if it's organized in the right way, you can affect the workflows before your code, your change manages to make cause any real problems. It's going to be caught by a scanner or some other thing. So it's important. I believe we have this awareness that I mentioned, that we think about it, but also you can get a lot of support from automation. I worked for a company that automates compliance, and Adewole became an office at some point. One of my colleagues researched how can we support it, and then he was shocked, realizing how massive it is. Because if you use a library, it's not only this library that you're dependent on, the library has
Yeah.
Really, really massive. So I personally am aware of some things, but I just know of them. They're just for me.
Before you ask that question, it's good that automation can help. However, API security, there are over 3 billion APIs in the world today. 98% of them are not secure. 98% of them. And you use it every day. They interact with each other every day. So it's a problem I'm just throwing out there. I don't have solution to them. And it requires both automation and manually checking and constantly rediscovering some of the vulnerabilities that may occur and addressing them. But the bare minimum we can always do is ensure that we manually manage what goes into our network, what goes out of our network. And of course, there are tools out there. There are companies that are trying to build security into network, so that even before you start or connect outside, you define those permissions, and they do it. They automate all those processes as well. So, yeah, you had a question.
Cybersecurity has been in use for a long time now. So, but with AI coming in, so what is the kind of shift that you have seen, like before AI and after AI, both the pros and cons? Like, how is it affecting?
In a number of ways. And one of the core ways is that it's easier now to generate codes for, I think I saw a report that about 70% of the CVs out there that ChatGPT can actually solve them. An agent can go in and solve those CVs and attack. So it's faster and easier, if you know what you're doing, to actually build malicious code and malwares and all these things. However, what AI is not going to do is control how you respond and how you prepare, your risk management, the education. AI cannot do that for you. So it still comes down to those norms and attitudes of an average developer. And I know I'm addressing development community here. One of the other things I do when I'm not doing research is another research where I have the newsletter. It's something I enjoy, and I write a lot. It's called Digital Security Insights on LinkedIn. I write a lot on that platform. And what inspired me was having security for non-technical people within organizations, because developers can easily create another DEF CON and you learn about different things, about the latest way of doing something. But a lot of 80% of organizations are non-technical experts. And can we help them understand security even at the basic level? So I do a lot of writing on that. You can check it out on LinkedIn. So AI is influencing this a lot in the terms of it now is.
I think you touched here a very interesting topic. So the awareness about the security. I work for a company that is in the automotive industry, and as you know, none of us, if you are choosing a new car to buy, you don't think about security. At least, even though I work within the security, I'm not thinking that much about the security, even though I know that cars can be hacked, and especially now when increased digitalization and automation and all of this communication between the cars and infrastructure will increase a lot in the
Coming years, yeah.
coming years, exactly. So, but what are your proposals to increase the security mindset between, I mean, just in general public, to make them aware, because it's very difficult to make a product secure and to spend the time and effort and money to make something secure, and if the customers, they don't care,
Yeah.
so why should we do it?
It's you made a very valid point, and I will reference two stories. One from a personal experience. When we bought a car 3 years ago in 2021, the first thing I did, even though it was a 2014 model, the first thing I did is look into the infotainment system. And I saw all the details, phone number, messages of the last owner of that car, everything. So I wiped off everything in order for me to start using the car. The second thing I did was, after I noticed that each time I start the car, my phone starts to load, and a bunch of things was going on. I said, what is this? I didn't sign up for this type of stuff. And I had to stop that from my phone from loading my contacts, my messages on the same thing. So to answer your question, the first thing we got to do is really educate the general public. Would they listen? I doubt it. Now, because it's a generational thing. Some will. It's a generational thing. The second thing I would mention is one of my colleagues had a research investigating mobile users' attitudes towards security in the UK. And I'm actually working on an article that sort of being digitally savvy does not equate to security savvy. So an average user does not think about security. They think about convenience. They think about, and that's why, I mean, TikTok generation, they post just about anything and everything online. Facebook and all these various platforms. So it's very difficult to grab the attention of people when it comes to security. But there it's back. He said, I think someone hacked my home camera. I said, first of all, why do you have home camera pointing to your sitting room? Why do you have to do that? He said, well, because if I have an expensive painting, what do I do? I said, first thing you got to do is change all your passwords from your router to everything that you have. So maybe general public can start from this type of things, like don't leave the default password in place. Then a basic understanding of what happens when you buy a new car. Because in the US, I don't know about the EU yet, it's an area I find very interesting, but I've not yet investigated. But in the US, when you drive around in all these fancy new cars, you're constantly sending messages, and they're harvesting your personal data without any cost. Everybody is harvesting those data. They can track down everywhere you go, wherever, beside your mobile. So basically, your car is just like this. It has everything. You'll be so surprised. Some of them are even, once you enter the car, they're taking your recording of your voice. Now they can tell, they can sell this data, and they're selling this data. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to creep you out, but it's very creepy within the automotive industry right now. So it's something to educate the general public about this privacy issues when you're buying a car. And car companies should also start thinking about this. Would they do that? I don't know. But would the push factor, the regulations, will it force them to do that? Most likely.
So, hi, I'm a security engineer also in the automotive industry. And I would say that it's really important to make maybe security awareness trainings interesting and fun.
Yeah.
This is what helps me and others as well. This is what motivates us to see numbers, maybe some charts and stuff so that you see that you're doing great at it. I would say that this is a great motivational factor. But otherwise, I also see that like in Sweden and maybe in all the Nordic countries, it's this culture of trusting each other, which for me is a bit weird. So, you know, then even having all your information public. So if you go to the beach, everyone has your, the number of your registration on your car.
Mm.
They know where you are. They can look you up. They see where you live.
Yeah.
And you're not at home.
Yeah.
So, see what you mean? So I see so many options that maybe people around here are not even aware of.
Yeah.
So that's my comment.
Thank you.
It's funny you said that the first thing because I was thinking about something similar, and I think that's like for those of you who are trying to figure out how to make my colleagues aware. In my company, we have like every month or two, I get a link that there is a new security training, and it's like a 1.5 minute long video. So I don't think that was said in the video, but something that I have to think about really. But still, it's going to take me 4 minutes in total, and it's kind of enjoyable. So I think that's I mean, you know, very, very tiny steps, but I think that's a way to go. And I'm not leaving any documents on my desk anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned documents at the last part because oftentimes we focus on cybersecurity, but information security sort of covers everything. Where the documents, your phone, the things that you're doing, even your conversation, are you thinking securely about things? And I know that it doesn't come naturally to some people. Back in the day when I used to live in Denmark, I would leave my door open, not locked, you know, just because who's gonna come here? That kind of thing. But obviously, when I became very much into this, I read a book in 2022, and I really went paranoid after reading this book. No, seriously. I mean, I understand what he was saying, but after reading that book, I even became more paranoid about everything. Now it's back now. Back then I didn't have pictures online anywhere, or at least I don't have my pictures anywhere. I just felt like I needed to go dark. It said, this is how they tell me the world ends. It was a very fascinating book, and it will scare the shit out of you, but it's good read. When I say it will scare you, it basically talks about how the NSA, CIA, all those guys, the dark market for malware from Latin America, how everything works. People that created them, or how they moved to Dubai and all these places and creating a lot of stuff. How they even hacked Michelle Obama back in the day. So you see that they can penetrate anywhere as long as they make you a target. It doesn't matter how good you are. So I hope and I pray I'm not a target because these guys are just too good. Thank you so much for.
Okay, that's the last thing, and then we're going to do something else after this.
I was just thinking about making consumers aware of security. I think that personally, I feel like that lands a lot on marketing. For the marketing team to really push on the security features as something good and why it's a good thing. Sort of educating the customers in the sort of advertisements they do for the products. And another thing, just a remark in general with security, I think it's a hard balance. It's not just only awareness that security is important, but it's also about the usability, because even if you have enforcements that sort of like rotate passwords, you have to rotate passwords every 6 months. If you do that, well, the user becomes frustrated because I had this really good password, now I have to change it again. And that forces them sort of to pick passwords that are easy for them to remember and therefore perhaps not really good. They might just increase a number or add the current year to their password, things like that. So I think there's a lot to think about also in terms of making security usable, and that's very difficult as well, to sort of balance the security with the usability needs.
Yeah, thank you. There's a hacker who I saw a post from him yesterday on LinkedIn who said there's a tool within Microsoft called Ezra, something like that, that can, for an admin, sysadmin to actually define what is permissible, even to the level of the granularity of like whether you can use weaker or no weak password. But I'm not promoting Microsoft products, because one of the issues about tooling that I didn't focus on tools is that every time my company like Microsoft or other companies have a data breach, the first thing they do is that we have a new tool that can help you solve X. And it's not about the tooling. It's about the mindset, about the people. And to just round it up, marketing, I don't think they would do it because it will not make them money. We need to have a greater incentive for why we should do it. But the short videos can help, and a few other things. But please follow me on LinkedIn, follow the newsletter, connect with me. We can continue this conversation and join the Discord channel as well.
Thank you.